Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And last night, Bryce Harper walked it off for the Titans, a big win over the Astros. Kind of a weird game. We'll break down what went right in today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been 5 years on radio over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing some sports talk there on all Philly sports. 3 years credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member. This is my third season as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies to continue to produce good content for you. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Now, an early apology. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. Somebody's doing some street work outside my window, and there's a jackhammer going on in the background. They've been doing it for like an hour and a half at this point, and I was just like, I can't wait for them to finish. I got to get this episode up. So if you can hear it, my apologies. I'll call the city of Philadelphia and complain on your behalf. If you can't hear it, great. Let's talk a little Phillies, shall we? So last night, a great win for the Titans. Like, I loved a lot of what I saw in last night's game. Now, could the Phillies have cashed in more in spots with runners in scoring position or runners on base? Absolutely, but so could the Astros. That's just kind of how baseball games go sometimes. Bottom line is Bryce Harper came up clutch when it mattered most, both with the glove and with the bat. It was a great finish, but let's get there first, right? We'll talk about what happened and the impressive parts of last night's game, because I thought there were a lot of impressive things. The first thing I'm going to say is impressive, Zach Wheeler's start. Now, he didn't have his best stuff. He went 6 innings. He allowed 6 hits, 2 earned runs, had 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. And you look at it and you say, okay, well, he gave up 2 runs in the 4th inning. And at that point, you kind of felt like, oh, okay, is it going to be one of those starts where Wheeler looks okay, but he doesn't get run support and he gives up like 3 or 4 runs and it's just not enough to get the job done? But he was solid through 6 innings. It was really good work by him. And he had hitters off balance for the Astros pretty much this whole time out there. The bullpen was also outstanding. To go out and get 4 innings, because this was an extra innings walk-off. They took to the 10th for the Phils to win this one. To go out and get 4 innings for your bullpen from guys like Orion Kirkring, Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez, and Matt Strahm. Those are your top 4 relievers in a big game, and they were unbelievable. The bullpen was better than Zach Wheeler, and Zach Wheeler was still pretty good. So the pitching in this game, outstanding for the Philadelphia Phillies. I know when you look at the box score and you say Houston had 8 hits, okay, probably could have done a little bit better, but only allowing 2 runs and scattering those 8 hits was great work by the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. I'm very proud of what they did last night. Offensively, the Phils were a little bit quiet. They didn't score until the 5th inning. Then they had back-to-back innings where they scored, but even then, you only scored 2 runs before you went to the extra frame. Brandon Marsh put a really good swing on a baseball to hit one out the opposite way. What does that say about where he's at right now? Well, I don't think that it's a breakout moment for him, but he was hitting the ball better over the weekend out in Kansas City. And now he comes back and he waits on a pitch from El Blanco and hits it the opposite way, stays through the ball, shows off some power, a good swing from him. Is it a get him going type of swing? Maybe. Am I counting on it? No, but it's nice to see. Those are the approaches that will help you come out of a stretch like the one that Brandon Marsh is in. So I love to see that from him. Bryce Harper, my God, we're going to talk about him in the 9th and 10th innings, or I guess rather just the 10th inning. But even before that, in the 6th inning, to put you in a situation where you could tie the ball game, he hits the ball to the left center gap. It doesn't get to the wall. It doesn't even get past the outfielders. And yet he's hustling every step out of the box because he's smelling 2 from the second he makes contact. Slides into second base on a play that not everybody would have made it. Now, it should have been a double. It's not like he had a ball hit directly to the left fielder and he just made a miraculous play. No, but it was aggressive and it was smart and it was hustle. And that's what Bryce Harper is on the base pass. Well, not always that second one, that smart one, but he's always aggressive and he's always hustling, and he got into second. And then You get a ground ball to shortstop that was to the right side of the shortstop. So you're taught as a base runner, ball at the shortstop, you're not going second to third. Ball to the right side of the shortstop, you're definitely not going second to third. And what does Bryce Harper do? Well, I don't know if it was a bad base running decision that got lucky or if he read it this well. It's hard to tell from TV or anyone not named Bryce Harper. It's hard to know how he figured to do that. But he got a great read on it. The ball was hit slow enough that he made it over to third. He beat the baseball, and the throw never came. I mean, he beat the baseball and was hit on the ground. And you're in a situation where you have a runner on third with one out. And next thing you know, Nick Castellanos, a single up the middle, makes it 2-2. And you felt, okay, well, now you're the home team. You got last stick. You're tied up. The bullpen feels pretty good. Let's go ahead and keep it here so we can find a way to win a game. Now, they didn't do it in the 7th, 8th, 9th. So you had to go extra innings in this one. And that's fine. Like, whatever. However you get the job done. That's a sign that the bullpen was really good. It also is a sign that you probably didn't cash in as many offensive opportunities as you had. But it's hard to get annoyed at that when the game ended the way it did. We'll talk about Bryce Harper's at bat against Josh Hader, and the at-bats put on Josh Hader by Trey, well, the one at-bat put on Josh Hader by Trey Turner before that. But let's talk about the defense that got him there first. You know the rules. Top of the 10th, Houston's goes out there, or Houston's at the dish. The Phillies go out to the field with a runner on second. Go-ahead run, that ghost runner rule. And it always majorly favors the home team. At least in my personal opinion. I don't know the statistics on that. The gut feeling, it hugely favors the team that has last at bats because you know what you have to do. If you got to score one, if you got to score two, if you like what exactly the requirement is for you to stay in the game or win the game, but you got to get there first. And Matt Strahm had a huge strikeout to start off the top of the 10th. And then a ball gets hit, a weird, it was just over the corner of the first base bag. It was barely even fair. So the fact that Bryce Harper got over there to begin with, impressive. And then he gets this weird in-between hop because he was just trying to make sure that it was fair and everything. He fields the short hop perfectly on the move, takes like a roundabout and takes to the bag himself because he knows he has time because I believe it was Yordan Alvarez who's the one who hit that ball. A beautiful, beautiful job of fielding by Bryce Harper. An insanely difficult play. You cannot fathom how hard of a play that was to make and react to. And with a runner on second, I mean, that ball gets up the line. That dude's scoring. Alvarez is on second. Now another run that could put you down 2 is in scoring position, and you're in major trouble. Heck, now Alvarez doesn't run well, so he's probably not on third. But who knows? That ball was heading into the corner. Weird stuff happens down in the corners of ballparks down the line. Bryce Harper said, I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to make a Gold Glove caliber play, and I'm going to get us the second out. And then in the final out play, Rob Thompson was vindicated for, well, not vindicated because I'm sure people would have agreed with that move, but Rob Thompson had made a smart decision earlier in the game that led to this. So Brandon Marsh, who was starting in center field, you got a righty on the mound, Ronel Blanco. He gets the start as a left-handed hitter. He was pinch hit for by Edmundo Sosa against Josh Hader in the 9th. Hader had the 9th and the 10th for the Astros. That means that you're going to need a defensive replacement in center field. Edmundo Sosa doesn't play the outfield. So not only does Rob Thompson make the decision to say, hey, Marsh, we know you went yard, but tough lefty. We're going to get a righty up there. Edmundo Sosa struck out, but I think you made the right play getting a right-handed bat and a guy you trust in Edmundo Sosa to the plate for Brandon Marsh. And then what do? Well, who's your best defensive outfielder? You put Johan Rojas out there in center field. And Matt Strahm gives up a line drive to center, one of those just diving line drives. It seems like it's going to hit the ground. Rojas gets an okay read on it, but not his cleanest break. But that speed, man, made up for it like crazy. That's why he's got to be in ball games at the end of games. Like, even if Brandon Marsh starts in center field, which is fine. Brandon Marsh can start against a righty. Johan Rojas can start against a lefty. Vice versa. I don't care really who starts the game as long as there's some type of justification for why you're doing it. That guy's hot. We like the matchup, whatever the case. But at the end of games, if you have the opportunity, Johan Rojas needs to be in center field because in a playoff type game, and last night was a playoff type game for the Philadelphia Phillies, Johan Rojas made a play not dissimilar to the one that he made against Atlanta in the NLDS last year that we'll all remember, that play up against the angled wall against Ronald Acuna Jr. Now, it wasn't as dramatic and probably not as difficult, but it was a similar feel the point in the game. Hey, go take this hit away, and we're going to win this ball game. And he did just that with a little finger wag mixed in. I loved what I saw from Yohan Rojas on that play. I loved what I saw from Rob Thompson and decision making. All that was left to do was walk the game off. So Kyle Schwarber starts on second. Trey Turner leads off. And I'm thinking, okay, you got a lefty-righty matchup. You got Harper coming up next. It's going to be tough lefty-lefty. I'd like to see Trey win it right now. That's probably what Trey Turner was thinking, right? Like, you could take a walk, or you could just win the ball game with a hit. So he was being a little bit of aggressive, and that's fine. You should be in that spot. But what you can't do, excuse me, is you can't swing yourself out of an at-bat and then give yourself an unnecessary out. Like, if the pitcher's not going to throw you enough strikes to get you out, you need to be calm and cool enough at the plate, even if you're a great hitter like Trey Turner, to say, hey, man, I got Bryce Harper hitting behind me. I don't care lefty. Bryce Harper, that doesn't matter. I'm going to take the walk. I'm going to be on first base. And Trey Turner found a great way to first base. He laid off a high fastball, found his way over there, and then the stage was set for Bryce Harper. And there was no thought at all of, like, Bryce Harper bunting Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner over to stay out of the double play. He hit to a double play early in the game. You can't even think about bunting Bryce Harper in that spot because, hey, he's always one swing away from winning the ball game. And he got a couple pitches that he couldn't do something with. And then he got one that he did. A little bit inside. And you know what's funny? It was actually probably about a foot and a half away from being a pretty tailor-made double play. But, hey, baseball's a game of inches. And this time it was a couple feet. Bottom line, rips the ball through the first base, second base gap, right to the right fielder. Kyle Schwarber shows off the wheels, slides into home as smooth as only Kyle Schwarber can. And next thing you know, the Philadelphia Phillies are celebrating around Bryce Harper at first base. Like, it was a great piece of hitting. It was two great approaches by Trey Turner and Bryce Harper in big spots against a really tough pitcher in Josh Hader. He's tough against righties. To walk him off lefty, that's Bryce Harper. That's why he's great. And that's why the Phillies found a way to the win. But, and I'm sorry for all this coughing. Still fighting over that cold I had last week. The important thing is the win. It's not the everything. You have to continue this momentum. And while the Phillies have now won 3 in a row, you got to win this series. I talked to you about the momentum heading into the Braves series. And we discussed that on yesterday's episode. Well, that only gets done if you win 2 of 3. And tonight, well, it's going to be a big one for multiple reasons. We'll discuss coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel because they're doing something a little different. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. They're America's #1 sports book. But we have something a little different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you're going to be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. Super easy, right? An easy way to find your favorite football games this season with FanDuel. NFL, they're going to be able to set you up. So go ahead and check it out. And all you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So bet that $5, get that free 3 weeks with America's #1 sports book. All right, let's talk a little bit about, if I can stop coughing, Game 2 of the Philadelphia Phillies series with the Houston Astros. And this is a really, really big one for a lot of reasons. First of all, the pitching matchup's interesting. Name-wise, it sounds like a big-time pitching matchup. In actuality, it may not be. Aaron Nola takes the mound for the Fightins. We know what type of year he's had. 11-6, solid record. 3.45, average ERA. There it is. I think I finally got it. And a 1.18 whip. So he's had a solid season, 159 in the third innings pitched, 147 strikeouts. Normally he's a little bit better in the strikeout department. And he has given up 23 home runs, but we know he can give up home runs. That's kind of a thing for Aaron Nola. But that is what it is. We know what type of pitcher he is. He's going to really need to be good because he's had some okay starts recently, but October Nola has been really, really good for the Philadelphia Phillies. And as we get closer to September, with a handful of starts left, on the season, it's time to start to build some momentum. Show us you can start to be a shutdown guy in the most important time of the season. We know he's capable of it, but tonight's a big one. The guy he's facing, yeah, he's no stranger to shutdown performances late in the season. He's no stranger to big-time spots. And Justin Verlander, who toes the rubber for the Houston Astros, the wily vet, he's 3-3 on the season because he was injured for a lot of the year. He's only thrown 62 innings, and he's given up 11 home runs in those 62 innings. So you look at it and say, the strikeouts are down, the ERA is up, the home runs are up. You're looking at a guy that's not exactly the name value that you'd expect from Justin Verlander. Now, you may be at a point like 3-3 on the year, 62 innings. Okay, is he going to be that guy all season, or is he working up to being fully stretched out? Like for Justin Verlander, this is not the prime part of his season. He's still working into that coming off of his injury. And it's not like a he just came back thing, but it's not a he's had a normal season, he's firing on all cylinders thing. What I worry about is that this could be the point. There's always that fear when you face a pitcher like Justin Verlander, a guy who's been great in the past, you believe can still be some semblance of his former great self, and is trying to figure it out. Oh, is this the time he's going to do it? Because eventually, it's like a time bomb. Eventually, Justin Verlander is going to go out and have a 7-inning, 2-hit, no runs start against somebody. And you hope it's not the Philadelphia Phillies. But I say that to bring up the fact that Justin Verlander is not exactly the Detroit or the first-time Houston version of himself. He's a guy with a name, and you can handle that. Now, it's not going to be an easy night. It never is against Verlander, but it's not going to be as difficult as it would have been in the past against one of the great names of this era on the mound. If you're going to get him, you're going to have to get him with the homer. That's it. He's going to be a tough guy to string hits against. He's got 119 whip. That's just about even with Aaron Nola. 0.01 higher. And with Nola, the only way you get him really is with the long ball. He doesn't really string together a bunch of hits like that. It's more he misses in the middle of the plate. He gets burned quickly. Next thing you know, he's behind the 8 ball. So two pitchers that you could see as kind of gas cans with the long ball tonight, but two pitchers with a track record of success. As far as the offense is concerned, you still have to keep an eye on Yordan Alvarez, who did not have a great game in game 1 of the series. He's going to have something happen at some point, and having a righty on the mound facing the lefty is going to be tough, especially a guy that gives up long balls in Aaron Nola. Keep an eye on Yordan Alvarez. But for the Phillies, they didn't really do all that much last night offensively. They strung together 8 hits, but they didn't get to a situation where they didn't feel like they were mashing the ball at any point. They were putting good approaches, but they weren't exactly in threatening distance of scoring numerous runs. I'm not saying 11 like they did in the final 2 games in Kansas City, but I'm talking 6, 7, 8, maybe even. Maybe tonight's the night for that. Another righty on the mound, so you should see Brandon Marsh back in center. You should see Bryson Stott at second. You should see the normal lineup that you get. But when I say you got to get Justin Verlander with the homer, and I think you may have to get him early, I'm looking at Harper. I'm looking at Schwarber. I'm looking at maybe Trey Turner, who's seen this guy a couple times in his career. I'm looking at those top 3 guys. Out the rest of the lineup, you're going to get what you get out of them. If you can get 4 to 5, let's go 5 hits out of the rest of the lineup, the top guys can carry you to a game where you can put up 5, 6, 7 runs. That's going to be the formula for success tonight for the Philadelphia Phillies. Get things going early, have the top of the order carry you, get to a point where you can jump out and give Aaron Nola a little bit of a lead so that he doesn't feel the pressure to go after guys and potentially give up a long ball that changes the game. Nola's weird, right? You never know what you're going to get. You could get one of those games where he implodes. You could get 8 innings of 3-hit ball with only 1 run allowed. I'm rooting for the final one, but it's a coin flip. So this game is also on the offense, but it's on the whole team, because the decision the Philadelphia Phillies made for tomorrow's game, Wednesday's game, the series ender against Houston, I don't feel great about it. Phillies fans shouldn't feel great about it. Phillies players shouldn't feel great about it. The organization as a whole shouldn't feel great about it. But it's the decision they made. We're going to talk about why Taijuan Walker is starting tomorrow's game and what that means for tonight's game and how big of a moment it is. So a lot to discuss still as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. But first, let's talk about Supply House. They're the best. You know supplyhouse.com. You can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. I just told you what it was. Take a guess. Yeah, supplyhouse.com. You knew it. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. You can shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Maybe you need help with an order, but you can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and you can talk to a real person every single time. Pros in the skilled trades can get competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. All right, let's talk about Taijuan Walker's start on Wednesday. But before we do that, I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan, you know him. You've probably listened. You've seen him on the podcast here before. We've done some crossover episodes. He's funny. He's intelligent. He's watched a lot of baseball. He's talking about all the big storylines in Major League Baseball as we come down the final stretch of the regular season. Go ahead and check out Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, the Phillies announced yesterday. Rob Thompson talked about it prior to the game, said that Taijuan Walker is going to be starting Wednesday against Houston. Part of me likes it. Part of me hates it. And I'll tell you how I break that down here, but let's start with the hate part. I told you that beyond a shadow of a doubt, the Philadelphia Phillies should not throw Taijuan Walker for his next start. He has been too bad. He has given you nothing lately, and you're looking at a situation where I think he gives you not a good enough chance to win ball games. I don't think he's good enough to be out there. I would have skipped the start of his. I would have gave it to somebody else, whether that's Michael Mercado, who got called up for Jose Alvarado. By the way, Jose Alvarado, a personal leave from the team. I don't know what it's about. It has not been disclosed by the Philadelphia Phillies. He is away from the team for the time being. Michael Mercado has taken his spot on the roster. Wishing all the best to Jose Alvarado for whatever he has going on personally right now. Again, I have no idea what it is. I'm not going to speculate. Just wishing him the best, hoping he comes back to the Phillies as soon as possible. But Michael Mercado is back. Could he start a game? Colby Allard, could he start in Taijuan Walker's spot? Tyler Phillips, could you bring him back up to start? You're looking at a situation where all of those things are possible. And instead, the Philadelphia Phillies decided that Wednesday they're going to throw Taijuan Walker. Now, Christopher Sanchez was scheduled to throw Wednesday against the Astros. And you bumped up Taijuan Walker. You move Sanchez back to start game one against Atlanta. And part of me likes that, right? That's the part I like. I would not have started him. I would have skipped his start. Like if it was all even and you had a good contingency plan, he would not be on this baseball team anymore. But right now, that's not realistic. So skipping the start would have been what I did. The Phillies, I think, are making the wrong decision giving him the ball on Wednesday. It's on Taijuan Walker to prove us wrong because I'm not the only one thinking that or saying that, and the fan base is feeling that. And, man, this is basically the last gasp to be like, is this guy completely washed? We'll see. Here's why it's good he's throwing Wednesday. Because think about these two scenarios. We talked about momentum from the Houston series and how much it would affect the fan base's mentality, the team's mentality heading into 4 games against the Atlanta Braves. Well, part of what you also have to think is how that series starts against Atlanta. Momentum can be lost quickly. And let's say you win 2 or 3 against the Astros. But then Taijuan Walker gets the ball on Thursday against the Braves at Citizens Bank Park and goes out there and gets shelled. Gives up 6, 7, 8. Looks uncompetitive again on the mound. Looks like he has no feel for the splitter. Fastball velocity is like 91, 92. That's not enough to blow people away. And the next thing you know, the Braves have momentum in that series to go ahead and find a way to make up a lot of ground in the National League East. I don't want the trendsetter for the series to be Taijuan Walker. That's part of the reason I didn't want him to make his next start at all. Now, what you do well by bumping him up Wednesday is you put him in a spot that could be inconsequential. If Aaron Nola takes care of business tonight, and if the Phillies go out and win this ball game against the Astros, something they're totally capable of doing. I mean, just looking at the odds for tonight's game, the Phillies are minus 145 on the money line. They have a 59.2% chance to win according to ESPN Analytics. They are favored in this ball game, and pretty solidly favored. Not heavily favored, but solidly favored in this ball game with Nola on the mound against Verlander. If you win this game tonight, you've already won the series. You've won 3 of your last 4 series, which would put me past my mark of when I would declare this team back to the type of baseball team that they were earlier in the season. Maybe not quite at that ceiling, but a team playing good baseball again. That's what that level would indicate to me. You could do that tonight. And then tomorrow, well, it's gravy, right? It's like the Colby Allard start. Well, no, that's not exactly a great example. I was going to say the Colby Allard start in Kansas City, but that series was decided 1 game apiece. You win tonight, well, Taijuan Walker goes for a chance to sweep. If something magical happens and he throws a great game, awesome. You've got all the momentum in the world. If he doesn't, well, at least he didn't do it against the Braves, and you accomplished what you were planning on for the series against Houston. Now, the other part of the scenario, this is where it gets dicey, is let's say you go out and you lose tonight. Aaron Nola does something. The offense is quiet. Who knows? But for whatever reason, you go out and you lose tonight's ball game to the Houston Astros. What do you think it's going to feel like waking up tomorrow as a Phillies fan, knowing that Taijuan Walker is on the mound for a chance to stop the bleeding before you go into a series against the Atlanta Braves? It's not going to feel great, folks. I barely look at him as a continuer right now, much less a stopper when you look at his type of momentum effect on the Philadelphia Phillies rotation. I want to put as little pressure on him as possible, which means winning tonight's ball game is paramount. And again, I keep saying all these things like I understand this and I understand that and I feel this way about it. And I think Taijuan Walker is still capable of going out and giving you a good start at some point. But I don't know when that's going to be, and I don't have confidence that it's going to be consistent. Do I believe he's done ever throwing a good start in a Major League Baseball game? No. Do I believe he may be done doing it for this team? We'll see at the end of the year. Do I feel confident to say that he's going to throw a good start? Absolutely not, and nobody should. So I would have skipped his next start. I want that to be crystal clear. I don't want anybody's takeaway to be, well, Connor's fine that Taijuan Walker throws on Wednesday instead of Thursday. No. I want Taijuan Walker to throw for this team on no day, and then you could figure out as the season progresses, do you want to insert him back in? But that's not what they're doing. They're pitching him on Wednesday. So the next best option is to look at the positives, which are, once again, you win tonight. It's a low leverage spot because you've already won the series. Anything you get from Taijuan Walker's gravy. He also doesn't start the series against the Braves with potentially a blowout performance that leads to momentum for Atlanta. The fan base kind of getting a little bit tight down there in the stands at Citizens Bank Park, and the Braves feeling like they have a chance to really make up ground in the division. So I don't know. Is it the right move? I don't think so. Is it the worst move? Definitely not the worst move, but who knows, man. And Rob Thompson defending Taijuan Walker, saying that he deserves this opportunity because of his track record and everything. And he was encouraged by the velocity uptick. Okay, man. I guess, but I've seen a lot of Taijuan Walker this year for this baseball team, and I have not seen much that I've liked. And for that matter, last year in a 15-win campaign, he didn't look like a 15-win pitcher. And I know that's lofty goals, but he didn't even throw in the postseason. So clearly the team feels some type of way about where his ceiling is as a pitcher right now. There have to be conversations about what happens if he doesn't throw well on Wednesday, but this is the decision that Rob Thompson's making based on track record of Taijuan Walker, and you just kind of got to hope that this is one of those starts that evens out the back of the baseball card, as the old saying goes. Color me skeptical, but we'll get there when we get there. We'll have plenty of time tomorrow to talk about that, hopefully with a little less coughing and a little less background noise from the jackhammer in tomorrow's episode. But tonight, take care of business, win the series. Aaron Nola dicing is going to be a huge part of it. The offense, I'd like to see him be a little bit more productive at home than just those 3 runs that they scored last night in 10 innings, mind you. So, hey, good things last night. Something to celebrate with the Harper walk-off. Time to continue to build momentum. The work is never done. But for me, today on this podcast, the work is done. Thank you so much for checking out Locked On Phillies. I appreciate you listening once again. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all of that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. Subscribing to the YouTube will get you notifications when new episodes are posted and things of that nature. So it helps you. It really helps me. So I'd appreciate it if you did that. And I'd also appreciate it if you tuned in tomorrow for my reaction to the night's game and more on the Fightins. That's all for today's episode, though. So I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.